Welcome to the Properties to Profit podcast. I'm Michael, your host. Excited to share with you my journey from a six-figure job to building a successful real estate business. Each episode will explore various aspects of real estate investing, from wholesaling and flipping to managing rentals. I'll share the lessons and insights I've gained, aiming to help you avoid mistakes and achieve your financial goals. Expect guest experts, valuable tips, and practical advice to guide you on your own real estate journey. Thank you for tuning in. If you find any value in this podcast, please subscribe, share, and follow me on social media. Let's turn properties into profits together. Good morning, guys. Michael here with Properties to Profits. Man, and this past week was a fun one. We unfortunately had a seller die on us. We got the confirmation on last Monday, I think 11th, before the election. And that one was unfortunate, and I'm going to talk about that one in a later episode because we did a wellness check twice on this gentleman over two weeks, and police would not go in, and our intuition ended up being right. So that's unfortunate. So you have to tune in next week, and I'll talk about that episode. But on today's episode, I want to talk about what happens when family gets involved. We had a deal that was set to close on a Wednesday, actually, I believe it was, maybe Thursday of last week, and we hadn't heard from the seller for 2 days, so we were thinking about doing a wellness check. But before we do wellness checks, we scour the internet and try to determine if we can figure out who else is with this person, meaning do they have siblings, wives, anything, and we try to find those numbers. And after a quick search, I think about a half hour, we did find that this gentleman had 3 daughters, and so we're going to call them first. So the first one we dialed actually picked up. It was like, who is this? And we asked it, hey, so-and-so, I believe he's your father. And then the second thing is, first off, is he okay? It's like, yeah, he's okay. What's up? Well, we were set to close on his house today, but we haven't heard from him in a couple days. And that's not like him. We normally talk to him every other day. And then she just rails into me. You're one of those home buyers. He's blah, 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 blah. And just keeps on going on for a couple minutes. And I just let her hear light into me here. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, ma'am. But tell me what's going on here. What are you guys trying to accomplish? She's like, well, we want to sell the house. I was like, okay. And that's what I'm trying to do here. She's like, but you offered him $40,000. I was like, I don't have the paperwork in front of me, but I'm confident this house isn't a $40,000 house. I think we're paying well above 100 here. I'm not 100% positive though. What were you guys expecting? And like that lightened her mood. I guess what it was is the paperwork on the counter that her dad had not signed was for $40,000. And so when I called, she tied us to that $40,000. And she was very upset, thinking dad had sold the house to us for $40,000 and she wanted to undo it and all of these things, right? I was like, oh, unfortunately, ma'am, we're not that home buyer here. So I went back and asked her again, are you guys looking to sell this? And like, what's your time frame? She's like, well, I'm moving dad in with me. We're leaving today. This isn't like a terrible part of town, but we're going into winter in Ohio. And normally when a house is going to be vacant long term, I would rather it be sold, rather not have to deal with things. And so I asked the seller's daughter, would that be of any value to you, knowing that when you leave today, this is taken care of? And she goes, well, we would need time to get all of this stuff. We're planning to come back in a couple of weeks to get movers and get all of this stuff. Well, if we could set that up, would that work for you? You guys get the funds now and don't have to deal with this? She's like, well, I don't know. I thought about renting it out. I thought about selling it myself. Oh, okay. Well, walk me through what both of those situations would look like. And she did. And I said, which one would you prefer to do? She's like, sell it. She's like, okay. And is there a reason you wouldn't work with us, seeing that we can close today? All the paperwork's been done. And your dad had chosen us after doing some research. And she was like, I don't know. I'd have to think about it. So I asked her, what do you got to think about? And she's like, what if I could get more money?
well, how much money were you expecting here? She's like, well, I know the house is worth $250,000. I said, okay. Um, I think you're somewhere in the ballpark of what the house is worth. Updated. Um, I haven't seen photos of this one, if I'm being honest. We buy several every month. But remind me, does this one have like new carpet, new flooring, new kitchen cabinets, countertops, granite, tile, and all of those things? She's like, well, no. And then she was like, now that I think about it, your offer may be reasonable. I said, maybe. And just in a question mode, asked her what she meant by that. And she's like, well, I didn't know dad was selling it and all of these things. Well, what would we have to do to like move forward? She's like, well, I want to do some research on you guys. I'll call you back in 30 minutes. So I said, okay. When we got off the phone, what I did is we get some YouTube testimonials and Google reviews. So I sent her several of those and just left it at that. And meanwhile, I'm setting up title because I know they leave at 1 o'clock. And if they leave, who knows when we'll get a hold of this lady. And so 30 minutes rolls back around and she's like, okay, we'll move forward with you. And I asked her, what was the deciding factor of moving forward with you? She said, you've already solved all the problems I need to. And we were only off about $30,000, but I don't know the true cost of rehabbing and what could go wrong. And you explained to me things aren't perfect in the real estate market. And I'd rather move forward with you. And you're not the guy that offered us $40,000. So long story short, we ended up closing it. It ended up actually being a very big deal for us. I believe $70,000, give or take. But what I wanted to share with you guys on this is we had all the legal rights to this house. Dad was perfectly capable of selling this house with or without daughter. And so I could have gone into it this way and tried to force the hammer and apply pressure that way. Oh, well, ma'am, we have a contract. You have no choice but to sell it to us. But in the end, asking questions and what they want to accomplish made it so much easier because at the end of the day, she wanted to achieve the same things we wanted to achieve and the same things her father wanted to achieve. And she just wanted to make sure that her father wasn't being taken advantage of. So when I could prove to her all of those things weren't happening, she was ready to go. So in the end, even when things don't go your way initially and you need somebody you have to step in and communicate to someone else other than the seller, being inquisitive and asking questions before you give them information and letting them come to a decision on their own via the questions you ask will get you a better result. And this is one to prove it because we got a $70K assignment on this one. I hope if you guys have a family member who gets involved after the fact, after the contract's signed, that you become extremely inquisitive and just ask deep questions and find out what this family member is trying to resolve and see if you've already resolved it. You just need to go through the sales process with them and get their buy-in, because when you can make it their decision, their idea, it is much easier for them to get on board so that you can move on with this transaction and move on to the next. Hope you guys have a great day. And if you guys found any value, please follow me on Instagram, realestatemike02. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Properties to Profit podcast. I hope you found today's episode valuable. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and share it with others who might benefit. Follow me on social media for more updates and tips. Until next time, keep turning properties into profits.